Hello, this is Wood Tread Retrofitting with the Creative Engineer. We're going to walk you through how to replace that nasty carpet on your stairs with some wonderful looking hardwood treads and some brand new risers that'll just make everything come together in a way that I think you'll be proud of. So let me walk you through the process. It's not as hard as you think. If you're like me, you probably have stairs that look like this once you pull up the carpet. It's not pretty. It is not something you paint and just call it a day. You're looking at plywood and OSB or oriented strand board as your risers. Solid, they don't squeak, functional, not pretty. This is construction grade material. We're going to make that look pretty, but we're not going to tear it out. That would be very, very difficult. These staircases are manufactured typically in a plant. They're glued and screwed. They're not going to come across and apart easily. So we are going to cover it with some solid, good-looking material. Just a closer look on this. Take a look at just OSB's flaking up. The paint around here is oversprayed from the trim. I had plaster and mud just piled underneath that carpet. It's like they knew it was going to have carpet on it, so they didn't do anything to make them look pretty. So your first step is going to be get the carpet out of there, wear a mask when you're doing that because you don't know what kind of fibers could be coming off that carpet. Get all the staples out. That can take a while. They probably put 1,000 in there. And then you're going to grab a putty knife and scrape up, especially in these corners. You may have paint overspray again that could be piling up. Anything that's going to prevent you from taking the new tread and it laying nice and flat on there. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to make it better than what you currently have. So get everything cleaned up, and then we'll go on to step 2. Removing the bull nose. This is a critical step. Has to be done, needs to be done right. And I'm going to show you how to do it in a way that has a high level of quality. It'll be something that makes the rest of the steps so much easier. Here is what a cross section of your stair looks like. You've got some carpet on top of an ugly stair tread, and you've got an ugly riser. That carpet pulls out, just like so, and that's what you're seeing in the previous videos. So this is something that we're going to remedy. This bull nose here has got to come off, and we're going to use a couple different saws to make that happen. By doing so, we will be able to bring in a brand new riser here called the Pretty Riser. This is going to be a 1/4-inch sheet of plywood that's been painted your trim color, so it'll look nice. Again, it's not structural, it's just enough to cover up that OSB. It'll cover up that edge that you just cut off. We are then going to purchase some retrofit treads online. It's a good place to have it, or a good place to find them. They have a 1-inch bull nose at the front and 3/4 inch of the rest of the body. And when you take this piece and put it on top of your newly modified stairs, what you'll find is that the top of the retread to the bottom of the next tread is the exact same height you had when the carpet and pad were on there. And that's why you have this special retrofit tread that you're going to use to make this process go so much smoother. And just to show you, that carpet is the same height, but it'll actually be a little bit, it won't be nearly as wide. The carpet tends to bring out on top of that bull nose, and it's a lot more a lot thicker. It's one of the looks you're going for when you go with a hardwood finish. It's going to be this nice clean 1-inch bull nose. So that's the basic setup, and I'll walk you through the steps. Here are the tools that we need. We have a circular saw, some sort of dust collection system, a hand saw, a tool that we're going to build, which is a straight edge for your saw. You can use any circular saw that you want. This is a festival track saw because I had that available. It does a good job of plunge cutting and dust extraction, but you certainly don't need to run off and buy one of these for this project. I also have a dust mask. I think it's important to have something like that when you're working so close to a cut edge, even with a dust extractor. And again, I highly recommend having some sort of dust collection system with this process, because typically you're going to be doing this inside an occupied house and you're cutting wood that is going to create a lot of dust. Here is that straight edge. If you've never built one of these before, it really is just a matter of taking a couple pieces of plywood, one with a complete straight edge like we show here, screwing them together. This piece should be left a little bit wider than you need. You take your saw, line it up against the straight edge of your saw, and cut. And when you do that, you'll get a perfect parallel cut from here to here, tailored to your saw. And I cut this to be, I don't know, a couple inches shorter than my tread length, and made sure that it would fit on my tread when I cut it. So I didn't make this piece right here too thick. I made sure I could actually take it, put it on the stair tread, and screw it in place. I'm also going to use this tool here. It's just a 90-degree measuring ruler, but this will be useful transferring the bowl nose width from the bottom to the top, and I'll show you that in a second. Here is that straight edge. Again, very, very simple, just some spare plywood we had hanging around and some screws. A close-up of the bull nose. Now, in this situation for me, this stair tread goes inside the trim. So the trim comes over the stair tread. So if I was to pull the stair tread off, it wouldn't come off because it's locked in place by this trim. If I cut this edge right here, it's not going to come off because it is locked in the edge here. So I have to make a cut right about there. So let me show you how to do it. More than likely, this is the scenario you're looking at too, but you never know where the builders might have bought the stair treads from. So here I've taken a very simple, very sharp handsaw, and I'm using that to run right straight against the trim and make that cut. A few quick shots of it. So here's me coming in, making the cut here, another shot, and finally the finished cut here. Very simple. I'm trying to get this thing as clean and flush as possible to minimize my sanding later, and I'm trying not to cut into the trim so that I don't have to fix it. So this is a pretty good example of how you can do it pretty cleanly. There's that tool again. Again, it's a 90-degree angle. Here's how you use it. You slide this in and out. It captures the end of the bull nose, and the other piece is sitting against the riser, so I know exactly what length that is. Flip it over and mark here with your pen. Do that in a couple of spots, and you'll have a straight line that when you cut it with your circular saw, it'll be nice and clean. Here is that straight edge tied into place, screwed down. Here is your track saw. Again, you're right up against the guide. This edge right here is perfectly aligned to the blade because this edge was cut using that blade. So you see I can't go all the way to the wall because of the motor and the blade housing, but you're coming within a few inches. To finish it off, grab that same handsaw and finish it. That guide serves two purposes here. Now it'll help guide that the handsaw, and you can really make quick work of this. You could go and grab a different tool, you know, a motorized saber or some other kind of saw, jigsaw, whatnot. But honestly, the handsaw is probably your best bet. Here it is, clean and cut. There's the edge falling to the stair below. Notice that this is not exactly the cleanest, but I'm going to show you how to make that look good. Here's the other side, and you can see a little bit's left protruding. I tried my best as I got better at doing this to make sure I didn't leave too much of a material here, because it just makes it more difficult. Here is the sanding process. I use this little tool that I had in my toolbox. You certainly don't need it. Some chisels could also serve the same purpose. This, you know, when I needed it, this came in pretty handy. I listed in my tools in the write-up of this material. The area to be really critical of is going to be, shown here in red. That's the only area that's really visible once everything gets assembled. So you're going to want to make sure this area is clean. The rest of it, just make sure you don't have anything that's going to get in the way. Okay, so here we are all cut up and sanded, looking pretty good. Another shot. So at this point, we've got it all cleaned up. Double check for any obtrusions that can get in the way of the next process, but at this point we were pretty good to go. Onto the risers. First off, we got to measure for the riser. I've got this little tool here, really handy. You can build it yourself. I have the instructions on my site. You can also buy one, I think probably $100 or so. It's a stair tread measuring device. What it does is allow you to get the exact length and the exact angles at the side of the pieces you're going to cut. Use this for the risers and for the treads. Don't assume anything is 90 degree with these stair assemblies. And it's not a huge deal if you're off, but I mean, it can become a bit of a problem, especially on the treads themselves, where if you cut it so that you have a little bit of an angle and that extra space ends up in the front, you can look at the bull nose and see, an 1/8 inch of a gap that you're not going to be able to fill easily. So this is a good investment. Again, you can build one on your own or go buy one. When you do get it, make sure you've labeled it so you know which side is up, which is down, which side is left, which side is right. In this particular case, you turn the thumb screw and the whole thing locks into place. Then I can transfer that to the saw. Here's me cutting the the risers themselves. This is a 1/4 inch sheet of birch plywood. I've already primed and painted one side. You're seeing the back side that's not primed and painted because we're going to cut this upside down. I have got blue painter's tape on my table saw. That's to protect the finish of my riser and of the stair treads themselves. Once I've got the stair risers cut to the right width, I'm now going to come in here and I found this to be pretty useful. It may not be necessary, but I think it's helpful. I just basically have a sheet of wood here. I think it's 2 feet by probably 4 feet, way overkill. Then I've just got 2 more pieces tied together. I've got this piece and another piece on top. And that's so that I can take the riser in the tread, push it against this edge, and then use my measuring device on top of it. And therefore I know that everything is lined up to one flat edge, to one reference that's flat. It did come in handy. It stops a few of things that could happen and you get your angles all kind of screwed up. This is worth the 2 to 3 minutes it takes to build. Here's a riser in place, shoved against that edge. And here's the stair measuring tool pushed against that edge as well. When you do this, you at least know everything is lined up. Now we can mark and cut each of the risers. Here we are marking the riser. Here we are cutting the riser. I'm using a sliding miter saw. I recommend you have one of these. If you don't, now's a good excuse to go buy one, especially for the treads themselves. They tend to be pretty wide, and this is frustration-free cutting. Once you have something that can cut that wide, it allows you to cut everything in one pass without having to get your circular saw back out. You don't have to have it, but I think it would be a great frustration reducing purchase. So I give you my my preference and my tool right up. Okay, so dry fit, everything looks good. I'm applying a construction adhesive to the backside, and I'm kind of doing it in a pattern like you see here. I'm just putting it on the backside of this. I actually just push this in place and then pulled it back down because I wanted to grab a picture of it. But I really just put on this piece right here. You may see some people taking like a flat edge and trying to smooth all this out before putting it in place, but honestly, you don't need to do all that. Just spread it out in kind of a pattern like so, push it into place, bang it with your hand a few times, then we're going to shoot some screws or some nails into it to hold it in place, and that'll be really good enough for this project. Here it is in place, and I'm going to shoot some nails, 3/4 inch nails along the top here, making sure to get it into the tread. and along the bottom here to make sure I get into the riser. Try to stick as close to the top and the bottom as possible. That'll keep the number of nail heads you have to fill to a minimum. Again, my nail gun and my glue gun. I list all the sizes and the glue types in my tool and material write-up. Here we are all finished. At this point, caulk all these edges here and hide some of the nail holes on the top, especially if you're like me, you got a little bit crazy with it. Go ahead and cover them up now and then paint everything. This is a great time before those treads come into place to get everything nice and clean, and it'll stop you from having to come back later and do too much cleanup work. On to the treads. Once again, my table saw is still taped up, and I've got tape on the fence and on the bed. And this will protect the treads because you are going to run these upside down or face down, the pretty face down, and you want to make sure you're not scratching it up. Using the same tool I used previously, I'm measuring the treads, transferring those angles and lengths to the stair treads themselves, and making my cuts on my miter saw So we apply glue and do the same thing we did with the risers. Once you apply the glue and set it in place, go ahead and kind of gently, put your weight on it, try to get that glue to shift around and spread out. Once you do that, take some, this is a little trick and tip here, take some some painter's tape, anything that comes up easily from the stair treads. Lay down one strip on each end like you see here, and go ahead and shoot your nails, like 1 or 2, maybe 3 per side, and through the tape. Now with that in place, now you can come back and take your putty filler and put it right on top of the tape, and then push it in there with your hands, and then pull the tape up, and everything will be clean. You won't have to do any wiping down of the nail heads or trying to remove excess material that will come off with the tape. Again, 2 to 3 screws per side or nails per side is all you really need. No need to go overkill on this. The glue is going to do all the hard work of holding these in place and keeping them from squeaking. Those nails aren't doing anything but keeping them from shifting until the glue sets up. Okay, finished product. So you can see that, a little bit of caulking and some painting, everything really looks nice on the trim here. Good clean edges along the treads. Everything really came together nicely. Again, another shot of it. The colors here are actually the same, but the lighting kind of makes it look like one's yellow and one's white. Again, this was a really nice product I ended up purchasing here. These came in pre-stained, and I'm telling you, just picked them out of the box and was ready to go, which is just really nice. When you get to this step, it's like you can, really get to the finish line quickly. You're talking 2 or 3 minutes per tread, and you're off to the races. Again, kind of a final shot here. In my particular staircase, I have a landing that I had to deal with, kind of a mid-level landing, and then around the corner here, more steps to the second story. I'll talk about this in a second, how I made this transition look good. But you can see where those bullnose, the 1-inch bullnose comes in handy. You end up with the same width all the way down, and it really looks like it was always this way. Let me show you that landing real quick. So in my particular case, I had this dark oak in the main floor of my house, and I actually have this lighter colored oak on the upper story, and I wanted to kind of merge the two, and so I kind of did this pattern in the middle. What you have here, where you see my laser line, that's a bullnose piece you buy with the wood kit, or with your from your wood supplier. It's a bullnose. It is almost the exact same looking bullnose you'll see on the stair treads you just installed. I did this myself as well. I'm telling you, for $100 you can buy a nail gun, a floor nailing gun, or you can go rent one for probably the same price depending on how fast you work. I just went ahead and bought one, and then I can sell it later if I don't need it anymore. I did it for this, and had another room that did not have wood that I went ahead and installed some wood in. So this is a nice little addition to the stair finish. And here's another shot of it. I just had a little bit of fun with mixing the colors and ended up really tying the second story to the first. The cost. So I want to break this down a little bit. I do it on my website too. I did 14 stair treads, and that's about $65 per retread from the site that I ordered them from. The risers I made myself for, I'm going to guess, $3 a piece. And then we have, roughly $9.50 or so in material cost. Let's be generous and give ourselves an hour per stair tread. You get faster towards the end, so the learning curve is steep on this one. If you paid yourself, I don't know, $20 an hour, you're looking at $280 in labor. So, and then $50 for glue and tape and whatnot. So total cost was around $1,200, and that means you're about $92 a stair tread. The best estimates I got were around $200 to $250 to do this work, and I think the internet kind of bears that out. You're probably looking at, I don't know, $100 in material and another $100, $150 in labor, depending on your market. So this is this is a project that if you really want to get into it and add to your skill stack, this is, I think, a good one to go dig into. You can probably save $1,500, $2,000. So to me, it was worth trying it out and learning something new. Obviously, you got to look at your time and how how long you can go without having stairs before making that decision. But I think this was a project that was well worth it, and given my pretty ambitious DIY skill set, I found this to be very, very doable. I'd recommend it. Now, one word on the stair treads themselves and something to watch out for. So the supplier I bought these stair treads from was shipping in some questionable quality items, and I'll show you that in a second. And I'm just kind of forewarn you that you're going to want to order these stair treads early in your process. Go ahead, order them, get them into your possession, open up every single box, look at every single tread in good lighting, and make sure you're happy with what you have. What you don't want to do is be in the situation I was in, where I've got my stairs torn up, I'm putting them down, open up a box, and sure enough, I started running into like the end of a particular lot that this supplier was supplying, and I started seeing these major defects that prevented me from being able to move forward. So I had to live for a couple of weeks with a half-finished project and people going up and down the stairs, and just wasn't good. So order all your pieces, get them in your possession before ever starting. Don't assume that because the first 5 boxes you open were good, that the rest are good. So here's what I saw. This was like a little white splotchy stuff showing up on these pieces. Here's another shot of it. I think it was the clear coat. Somebody grabbed it and dragged it around, and I called the supplier. They're really great about it, but still, what a pain in the butt to package these back up, send them to the supplier, get new ones. And this happened a couple of times. They were really having some quality issues. So make sure you have all the stair treads you need before starting the project. Okay, so that was wood tread retrofitting with the Creative Engineer. There's more information on my website at www.thecreativeengineer.com. I also list out all the supplies that I use and all the tools that I use to pull this off. Thank you for watching. Please visit the site if you have any questions. Thank you.